It's Tuesday, April 30. In the headlines, a sectoral debate to begin this week. In business news, Statin says Jamaican commuters and motorists faced a double-digit increase in transportation costs. Regionally, former Bahamian Prime Minister says the country has been too permissive, allowing illegal migrants. And in sports, Bunny Shaw recovering from surgery on a broken foot. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The annual sectoral debate should begin inside Gordon House today when the House of Representatives meets. The leader of government business in the House of Representatives usually opens the debate after the conclusion of the budget debate. Lawmakers took a break at the end of the budget debate on March 26, but had to rush back to Parliament on April 9 to pass an amendment to the Appropriations Act. The sectoral debate gives government members a chance to propose programs and projects within the different sectors. Time is allotted for 2 sittings per week over a 6-week period. Based on the standing orders rules governing the Houses of Parliament, members entitled to speak during these debates are any minister and any member of the opposition selected by the leader of the opposition. And of course, you can watch it live on PBCJ. Responding to concerns expressed at a recent town hall meeting, Minister of Labour and Social Security Pernell Charles Jr. committed to enhancing support for the school feeding program. Danita Rodney has that story.
Addressing the minister during the question and answer portion of the town hall, Alicia Archer, chairperson of Montego Bay High, expressed her concerns regarding the program. Ms. Archer highlighted that schools are currently facing difficulties in meeting the needs of students enrolled in the program of advancement through health and education path.
With the rising costs in food, we are noticing that the allocation to our noble institution is still the same. So the Board of Management, along with the school administration, has had to apply creative strategies to ensure that our young ladies are fed, but we are still struggling. So I wanted to find out from you, Minister, if there is a collaborative approach between your ministry and the Ministry of Education and Youth, particularly the school feeding unit, to look at the budgetary allocations to see how best more resources can be allocated to our schools.
In his response, the Labour Minister said a joined-up approach between the Labour and Education ministries will be taken to ensure that the needs of the students are met.
We are actually, as part of the review, and based on the stakeholder comments, we will be having greater collaboration with the Ministry of Education and Youth, as well as the Ministry of Health and Wellness, and even the Ministry of Agriculture, who I spoke to the Minister because in some areas, we're looking on even supplementing the school feeding through the agricultural produce that might be excess produce or other produce based on the area. For instance, what J.C. Hutchinson does in his constituency.
Reporting for the news on PBCJ, I'm Danita Rodney.
The Meteorological Service of Jamaica says the island should begin experiencing an increase in rainfall this week. A trough across the central Caribbean has been producing a broad area of unstable weather across the region since the weekend. Scattered showers and thunderstorms are expected this afternoon across most parishes. Lingering nighttime showers and thunderstorms are also likely. Over the next 3 days, morning showers and thunderstorms across eastern parishes. Otherwise, mostly cloudy conditions are expected. Fishers and other marine interests should exercise caution as sea conditions will deteriorate in the vicinity of showers and thunderstorms. The Planning Institute of Jamaica says Jamaica's economy grew by an estimated 1.9% in October to December quarter of 2023. relative to the corresponding quarter of 2022. Based on this trajectory, the World Bank says the Jamaican economy is expected to grow at 1 to 2% over the medium term. It also says the country's gross domestic product, GDP, is worth $17.10 billion US. That was in 2022, according to official data from the World Bank. But do you understand what GDP means and how that affects citizens? Let's examine the term with the JIS in part 2 of this two-part feature.
So, you might be wondering, what does GDP have to do with me? Well, you see, it's a cycle, and all of us have a role to play in that cycle.
From a macro level, when a country is looking at how does it stimulate productivity, how does it get or put back money into the economy? Because remember, consumer spending only happens if they have the money to spend.
Now, how is the government able to drive productivity in the economy? There are two ways. One is to export much more than we import, which is not the case for us, not yet anyways. The other is if our consumer spending and our investments are high enough to allow the government to spend more money as well. Hence, you may see the government pumping money back into the system from time to time, by way of wage increase or a tax break to help especially low-income earners in this regard.
For example, the recent budget where the government said it's going to increase the threshold on income tax from 1.5 to 1.7 million. That actually is pumping $8 billion back into persons who are at the low income level that they can spend back into the economy.
Thus driving consumer spending that in turn drive productivity and a rise in the GDP.
Our unemployment is down to 4.5%. And that's at the same time that we're seeing GDP growing at a rate of over 10% year over year. So it's a correlation between the two. So if the government is spending more, it's going to affect the GDP, right? But in an effort for it to spend more, whether it's in giving back in increasing the threshold or to give back in reducing any sort of duties or income tax, it's driving the economy by putting money back into the system, allowing people to either save or to put that money back into spending. So the government spending, it depends on how it wants to spend it, whether it's putting it back into revenue avenues is going to drive productivity, which in turn drives the economy.
So how can Jamaica raise its GDP?
Speaking from a private sector point of view, the thing that we really look to focus on is one is consumer spending, but also is the exports and imports of a country. So if you look at Jamaica, we rely heavily on imports, and our exports, really our focus has always been on local, servicing our local economy and servicing the diaspora by extension. So our exports have never been as great as our imports. And in fact, probably our imports could be anywhere from 8 to 10%, 10 times that of our exports. And so that would affect our GDP.
Which brings us back to the finance minister's point on our current GDP status. You'll remember he enthusiastically said that the country's per capita GDP is roughly about $7,000 compared to that of our Caribbean neighbors, which is $20,000. So why is he excited?
I think we should celebrate the fact that we are on a good trajectory in that relation. I think we do need to look at countries like Trinidad and Barbados, who GDP are 3 times ours, and look at what it is that they are excelling at. And to me, it goes down to their ability to manufacture at a low cost and their ability to export into territories that are not just where their diaspora is. I agree. I think that there's things that we should be celebrating.
Is a different kind of heat. So if you work outdoors, you have to take a different kind of action. Just feeling ill while in the heat is a warning sign, and symptoms can range from mild to fatal. Don't risk the headache and fainting of heat stroke, the red bumps of heat rash or the fatigue, thirst, and even muscle cramps of dehydration. Avoid prolonged sun exposure, especially at peak hours, and get into the shade if you feel affected. Wear lightweight and light-colored clothing as well as wide-brimmed hats when you can. And always, always stay hydrated.
A message from the Pan American Health Organization.
Time now for the business report with Denise Williams.
Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Business Report. I'm Denise Williams, your guide to the latest happenings in the world of business. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica, STATIN, says Jamaican commuters and motorists face a double-digit increase in transportation costs over the last year. The average cost of goods and services related to the transport division went up by 10% from March 2023 to March 2024. Looking at the month of March, there was a 0.2% increase in the average index for the transport division. This was propelled mainly by a 0.7% uptick in the costs associated with the operation of personal transport equipment. Higher petrol prices were linked to the increase in that group. JMMB Group has confirmed that it is being affected by bank identification number cyber attacks. These kinds of attacks involve criminals guessing an accurate combination of a debit or credit card number, card verification value, and expiry date using brute force computing. JMMB Bank says it will investigate the issue thoroughly and restore clients' accounts based on the outcome of those investigations. The bank is urging clients to be vigilant in monitoring their accounts and statements and report any suspicious or unusual activity to their financial institutions. It's also asking cardholders to reduce the amount of funds held in accounts attached to their debit cards, as this will reduce any potential financial loss resulting from the attacks or other cyber attacks. Educom Cooperative Credit Union and Gateway Credit Union have agreed to a merger. Members of Educom voted to accept the move after months of discussion and due diligence. Members of Gateway Credit Union voted for the merger on April 18. It's expected that the amalgamation will be finalized by the end of the year to officially merge by January 1, 2025. The merged entity will operate under a new name to be determined by a competition among members. The credit union will boast assets of more than 28 billion Jamaican dollars and operate from 13 locations. It will have more than 200 members of staff, serving a membership in excess of 170,000 persons. During trading on April 29, 2024, the following companies valued at Jamaican 500 million or more in assets represent the overall volume leaders on the main market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Wigton Wind Farm ordinary shares with 4,522,137 units amounted to 33.13% of the market volume. Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with 4,058,260 units amounted to 29.73% of market volume. Sagicor Select Funds Limited Financial with 1,405,592 units amounted to 10.30% of the market volume. And during trading on April 29, 2024, on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, the following companies represent the overall volume leaders on the junior stock market, with companies valued over 50 million Jamaican or more in asset value. Stationery and Office Supplies Limited with 1,808,841 units amounted to 19.94% of the market volume. Edufocal Limited with 1,509,390 units amounted to 16.64% of the market volume. Spur Tree Spices Jamaica Limited, with 981,504 units, amounted to 10.82% of the market volume. Overall, the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, trading on April 29, 2024, registered a volume of 412,927 shares, crossing the floor of the exchange, valued at $2,309,995 Trinidad and Tobago dollars and 66 cents. NCB Financial Group Limited was the volume leader with 239,164 shares, changing hands for a value of 693,742 Trinidad and Tobago dollars and 34 cents, followed by the West Indian Tobacco Company Limited with a volume of 76,228 shares being traded for 767,337 Trinidad and Tobago dollars and 50 cents. Moving from the money moves of investors, executives, and companies, we turn to the Forex market. On April 29, 2024, the Bank of Jamaica reported that $60.4 million was bought from Forex traders, while $56.6 million was sold to Forex traders. Buying directly from the Bank of Jamaica, foreign currency traders sold the US dollar for $156.95 and bought the US dollar for $155.28. The difference between the buy and sell rate was $1.67, which represents a profit for Forex traders for every US dollar traded. Canadian Forex traders earned a trading profit of $1.72 from transactions with the Bank of Jamaica. The Canadian dollar was sold at $115.77 and bought for $114.05. For traders looking at the British pound, they pocketed a profit of $4.34, selling it for $194.97 and buying it for $190.63. For our credit report tip of the day, be aware of your credit utilization ratio. This ratio measures the amount of credit a borrower is using compared to their total available credit. Keeping this ratio low, typically below 30%, signals to lenders that the borrower is not overly reliant on credit and manages their finances prudently. And with that, we wrap up today's business report. I'm Denise Williams. Appreciate your company. Stay well informed, stay ahead of the curve. Until our next update, take care.
In regional news, former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis believes that the Bahamas has been too lenient regarding illegal migrants residing in the country. More in this report.
Dr. Minnis using his contribution time to the Immigration Amendment Bill 2024 to hit out at the Davis administration on not only immigration but their plan to send troops to crisis-stricken Haiti. While he was critical of those policies, he did commend government for carrying out a mandate to rid the country of shantytowns, a policy he pointed out was also carried out by his administration because they were, quote, tired of the slackness.
The Bahamas has been too permissive in allowing undocumented people to reside here. I am pleased, Mr. Deputy, that the present Davis administration is continuing with the FNM's shantytown policy. You on that side, all of you on that side, do well, very well, when you follow the FNM policy.
When it comes to the Bahamas aiding Haiti by sending 150 Royal Bahamas Defense Force officers to help with security as a part of a United Nations mission, Minnis continued to criticize the move. He says it appears the Davis administration has no clear plan when it comes to helping Haiti and called on government to hold off on sending troops.
The Prime Minister must not send Bahamian troops into the violent chaos in Haiti with no clear plan. There is no political consensus in Haiti as to the way forward. No progress is possible until the various Haitian elites and political factions come to consensus. We risk the lives of our young people, our young men and women, if we send them to Haiti in an irresponsible manner.
In Barbados, developing networks for capital inflows into the University of the West Indies remains top priority for its management. Vice-Chancellor Professor Sir Hilary Beckles acknowledged the efforts made thus far by its campuses.
It is very important for us to recognize this. In much the same way that we recognize that when the government of Trinidad and Tobago made that $100 million investment in our Penal de Bay development. These are single investments that create new frontiers for the university and secure their footing as new policies are emerging. And so the Five Islands campus is now positioned to roll out the master plan to build out the campus, new dormitories, libraries, laboratories, sporting facilities. We're not just participating in the world of higher education, we have positioned ourselves to be a global leader. We also had the opportunity to reflect on our 70th anniversary. And in the context of that 70th anniversary, we made it clear to our stakeholders, and this was reflected in the regional media, that UE was going global. And this was a headline feature in the Gleaner newspaper in our 70th year. And another feature which said, UWI top ranking.
Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of ExxonMobil, Darren Woods, believes that the oil and gas developments in Guyana can go down as one of the best deep-water developments in industry history. And that, he said, further is attributed to the company's ability to optimize operations and production in Guyana.
If you look at Guyana and the development there, I think it will go down as one of the best deep water developments in the history of the industry. So a lot of value that's been created through the hard work of the partners, but specifically with our engineering organization, our projects organization. So understand why Chevron's interested in participating in such an attractive development. The partnership that exists today is run or defined by a joint operating agreement. That agreement gives existing partners rights when there are changes in controls. The Chevron Hess transaction ignored those rights. We're standing up for the rights to make sure that we protect the value that we've created there, to make sure we understand what the Guyana assets, the value of those assets are in the Chevron Hess transaction, and make sure that we have a line of sight to how best to optimize value for our shareholders.
I'm sure you understand Chevron's position. I'm sure they've explained it to you. They are saying that there's a Hess subsidiary that won't change, and they think that that is enough to satisfy what they're calling a contract language dispute that they think is something that's routinely put in and usually is not taken up by the other partners. How is this different, and how do you think it'll play out?
Well, I am familiar with their argument and their interpretation. We wrote the JOA, so we have a pretty clear line of sight as to the intent and the circumstances that apply and the language that applies to these circumstances. So we feel pretty confident in our interpretation. And frankly, that's the point of the arbitration. The JOA allows for that. It's understandable that partners from time to time can have a different interpretation of that. We'll take it through the arbitration process and we'll let the facts speak for themselves.
Would you put in a bid yourself if arbitration allowed you to do that? You guys are still caught up with Pioneer Natural Resources trying to digest that major acquisition. Would you have the money to go ahead and try and put a bid in for these assets as well?
I've made it clear in the past that this is not a play for Hess. We're not interested in a transaction on Hess. This is really around protecting the value that we've created as part of that development, making sure that the preemption rights that we believe exist in the JOA are recognized and confirmed, and then understand what the value they're putting on that asset is, and then what the options are to maximize the value to their shareholders.
In sports, reggae girl and Manchester City women's striker Khadija Shaw is now recovering from a broken foot injury sustained during the Women's Super League match against West Ham United on Sunday, April 21. Shaw made the announcement via Instagram on Monday. Sharing that she had to undergo surgery to treat the injury, Shaw said, "Gutted to know I suffered a broken foot in the game against West Ham, but grateful the surgery went well." End quote. As the big event draws near, fans in the Caribbean will be able to buy ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2024 tickets directly from box offices from Thursday, May 2, and confirm their attendance at the biggest cricket carnival spectacle ever.
To celebrate 30 days to go to the start of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup and the launch of the official anthem, box offices will open their doors on Thursday until the end of the event across the 6 host nations in the West Indies. For Trinidad and Tobago, tickets will be available at the Queen's Park Oval and the National Cricket Centre in Couva, with doors open from Monday to Friday 10:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Fans can choose from a variety of ticket options including Premium, Standard Plus, Standard, Grounds and Mounds and Party Stand. Tickets will still be available on the tournament's ticketing website. The World Cup pulls off on June 1st, 2024.
Barbados' Prime Minister Mia Mottley wants the history of West Indies cricket integrated in school curricula across the region. She says countries have to confront the fact that the younger generation is not aware of cricketing greats. The Barbadian leader's comments came at the close of the 2-day CARICOM Regional Cricket Conference in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago.
When I was 10 years old or 11 years old, I had finished reading Michael Manley's History of West Indies Cricket and Muhammad Ali's The Greatest Love of All. And for me, those two things help anchor my love for sports, but also my love for commitment to excellence. And today, regrettably, our children are not reading as much. And since you are a documentary maker and there are other documentary makers in the region, we may have to do far more audiovisual material and also shorts, because 2-3 minutes is what's carrying it in this social media platform.
It's not only about moving the cricketers, it's about moving the fans. Fans create the base for economic activity as well. And part of the difficulty is that I don't think that we have negotiated sufficiently favorable contracts with respect to access to travel, but it cannot only be air travel, because that's not going to be sustainable in terms of the level of base that we need. So I hope that in the same way we have contracts with hotels, etc., that with the resumption of air travel now coming back to a normal state, and with the development of the ferry travel that we hope to bring into play, that we can have greater access for the commodity of sports.
And that's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms